Welcome into the Bird and the Bear podcast. Michael Knauff, Cameron Carriglio getting you set for week 10 of the college football season. Not a whole lot on the plate this week other than a top 10 showdown between Florida and Georgia. Pretty lackluster as a whole, but still a lot of storylines from last week. A lot of getting into that late season surge. Only about a month left of the regular season. It's kind of hard to believe we're already there. A lot of teams only have 4 games left.
Or three.
Yes, some do. After this week, Florida only has 3 games left. And
hopefully 5.
Hopefully 5 to make the SEC title game. But we're winding down, and we're entering, you can compare it to like the 12 days of Christmas. It's 27 straight days of football.
I didn't really count the NFL.
I mean, it's something. It's college-wise, if you exclude Mondays and like...
Yeah, so now we get college on like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Hello, Maction. It's that time of year. But we're going to jump into things. We're going to begin with some reactions from last week, and we're going to begin with arguably the best team in the country after last week, showing Ohio State dismantled Wisconsin 38-7 behind J.K. Dobbins' unreal performance through the air and on the ground.
I think Ohio State is probably the best all-around team in the nation right now. I feel like at points LSU can kind of hang on their passing game as a crutch instead of doing it because they're really good at it. And I feel like Ohio State could throw the ball. They have been, when they do it, very successful. They just don't need to because their offensive line is a machine. They have a great backfield. Fields is mobile, and their defense is locked down.
I mean, you could argue they have the best offensive weapon in Fields and the best defensive weapon in Chase Young, who I didn't think that you could get a defensive ends. You have Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, and then Chase Young. Like, how do you recruit that kind of talent at defensive end for consecutive seasons like that?
I kind of like this whole Chase Young for Heisman thing.
I love it. I think it's great. I mean,
I think he'll get invited. A la Ndamukong Suh.
I mean, he should be, I think. And people are actually starting to compare him to, like, those 2 seasons, that, 2009, 2010?
I think it was 2009,
2009 season that he had. And, I mean, he had 4.5 sacks against a Wisconsin offensive line that many people consider to be the best in the nation.
Yeah, before that Wisconsin game, his numbers were kind of close to the DN from Illinois, Alawule Batiku. And I think Batiku still has more forced fumbles. But I was reading these things where like, Chase Young's really good, but how about this Batiku kid that no one knows about? Chase Young's better.
There's a reason they call him the Predator.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a monster. And the thing with him also is his football IQ is so high. I mean, you saw him reading screen passes left and right. I mean, he shut down any type of short passing game that the Badgers tried to set up to Jonathan Taylor by himself. I mean, he took the Badgers out of what a substantial part of their game plan by himself.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were a little fortunate in that they got a Wisconsin team that was probably a little bit dejected. But even if they got Wisconsin's best effort, I still think they win by double digits.
I mean, 38-7 is not something you can say, oh, they were just hungover from their loss to Illinois. No, like...
It was a curb stomp.
Yeah. And then, you throw in Master Teague back behind J.K. Dobbins, and that's as good a 1-2 punch in the backfield as maybe anybody in the nation.
Yeah.
I mean, both guys are averaging over 6 yards a carry.
And that's after a couple, really one really difficult game.
Yeah. And outside of Penn State, and now I'd say Michigan, they don't really have a whole lot left on their schedule.
No.
So they'll definitely...
I think they're going to run the table.
If I would bet that they would too. Though that at the minimum go 10-0 before those final 2 games of the season, and those will be like the final true test for Ohio State. And I think that when the college football playoff comes out this coming Tuesday, they'll be number 1. Going to go back down south to a team that is now in a little bit of quarterback controversy with Bo Nix.
No controversy anymore.
No, not anymore. But it's kind of that skepticism behind the rationale of Bo Nix continuing to play and not even giving Joey Gatewood at all run a chance in that game against LSU. And I don't blame Gatewood one bit.
Neither does their
leaving.
fan base. And that is a fan base that I could imagine getting on somebody like that for leaving. And almost universally, the entire fan base is like, we get it. Good luck. We hope you come back to us, but we get it. I think Malzahn signed his own death warrant.
I
don't think he's a good enough coach to really justify them keeping him on much longer. And I know that he thinks he can develop Nix, but I feel like Nix is limited, and I don't really see that changing. He kind of has a noodle arm. His arm strength is nothing spectacular. His accuracy is not great. His pocket presence is subpar. He's not really a runner. They want him to be, but he's not.
And that's the thing. In Malzahn's offense, the quarterback run is a staple. You have to be able to be mobile with the football, and Gatewood is that. He is a true dual threat guy.
Yeah, I think they fire him and maybe go a little bit of the route that LSU took, and you hire an offensive mind that's
modern.
Well, I think Malzahn's modern. I just think that he's a little bit hard-headed.
Yeah, he's very stubborn with his offensive play calling. He wants to run that same system. I mean, compare him to Dan Mullen. Mullen and Malzahn, their offenses traditionally parallel each other in featuring the quarterback run a lot. But you look at what Mullen has had to do this year, or even last year with quarterbacks who aren't as mobile, he's adjusted his offense to that. But you see Malzahn not doing so as much, I feel, with Bo Nix and formatting the offense to fit his skill set.
Yeah.
But wherever Joey Gatewood ends up, I mean, somebody's got a very athletic, filled with potential quarterback, and who the hell knows where he's going to end up. I mean, he's from Jacksonville, so people's first thought, oh, Florida, but that's a crowded that's a crowded locker room there. I mean, you're going to have Trask, maybe Felipe Franks, Emory Jones, and then Anthony Richardson coming in. So you're going to have a deep quarterback roster with somebody who's deserving to be a starter somewhere, not be a starter. So that doesn't make sense. But we'll see what happens with Joey Gatewood. We're going to go out to the Big 12, and another undefeated goes down last week. Oklahoma almost finished the comeback against Kansas State. They were half a yard from potentially being able to. But really,
think they would have.
I think they would have too, but at the same time, though, hats off to Kansas State. I mean, they scored, what, how many unanswered points at one point in that game?
A 41-6 winning at one point. It was unbelievable. Their offense just was kind of doing what they always do, but for some reason it was shredding Oklahoma. And I was watching the game and just couldn't figure out. It was so predictable. Quarterback run on 3rd and 1 every time. And then they were getting chunk plays. And honestly, if you're Kansas State, I think if you want sustained success, throw the ball a little more. Skylar Thompson.
Skylar Thompson's a
he can throw.
You're throwing he's a dual threat guy. I mean, obviously you see his legs, but the most impressive one, he got out of the pocket, rolled to his right, and he hit his tight end on that deep drag across the field. I mean, that was those are throws that you see like Hurts make.
Yeah, he hit Shen about the 8-yard line on the left sideline once too on just a beautiful throw that I think was their 41 or 48 score. But really, he didn't score, but he eventually punched it in. Yeah, it was a beautiful play.
And now Kansas is 5-2. I mean, this is Thompson. I think this might be his last year.
I think he's a senior.
Yeah, so
I've heard that name a lot for a long time. So,
and they're in the race for the Big 12 for a spot in the Big 12 title game potentially. I mean, they fell to Baylor, so they don't have the tiebreaker there.
They also lost to Oklahoma State. It's going to take some help.
Yeah, but it's great. I mean,
they're going to make a bowl,
a nice bowl like the Alamo Bowl or something maybe. Yeah. But for Oklahoma, I mean, this kind of all but knocks them out of the playoff picture.
I don't know if I go that far yet. I think if they win the Big 12, they have more than a 75% chance to get in with one loss.
But that's assuming a lot of other teams end up with one loss. Because, I mean, the only one-loss team, I think, let's say like Oregon runs a table, Oregon or Utah runs a table, because one of them's going to win the Pac-12 title. You have a one-loss SEC teams, a one-loss Penn State. Let's say they're only lost to Ohio State. I don't think you can put Oklahoma in ahead of those teams. Maybe Utah.
Right. This is kind of an uncommonly top-heavy year.
It's very deep. Yeah, the top is deep this year. Yeah. And speaking of Oregon, somehow they skate by Washington State.
If Mike Leach could learn how to manage a damn clock, Washington State wins that game.
I mean,
they scored way too quickly. They were snapping the ball at the 10-yard line with 35 seconds left on the play clock. They could have bled that game down to about 25 seconds and scored, and probably would have won. And instead, they just scored as quickly as they could, and you gave Oregon a minute to basically just roll down the field on you and kick a game-winning field goal. Terrible clock management.
Yeah,
This is a better Washington State team than
what the record indicates.
And then I think they do make a bowl because Cal's just
Weird.
really bad all of a sudden, and they get somebody next week. They get Oregon State still, I think. So I think,
Yeah, they haven't played them yet.
I
Yeah,
think they'll be okay.
I do too. But they're what, 4-4, 3-5.
They're
right?
4-4.
Yeah, they'll be fine. They'll make a bowl, but kind of a disappointing season, I'd say, for Washington
A little
State as
bit. I mean,
whole.
their defense just isn't good.
Yeah, I mean, and last year that was kind of something that they took a step back this year compared to last year.
Even last year, they had moments where they weren't very good. 2 years ago, they were quite good. But this is about Oregon anyway. I think Oregon has a shot, but I think it's a slim
Yeah,
shot.
if they run the table, win the Pac-12 title, and there's an undefeated SEC team, and the rest are 2 losses, and Clemson loses, and Penn State loses. I mean, there's a lot that has to happen.
It's going to take help.
There's going to be a lot that has to happen for Oregon to get in. So after last week, the Big Ten it's more taking shape now. Minnesota is in the driver's seat to win the West. They have a 2-game cushion on Wisconsin and Iowa in that division, which is weird. I mean, they play each other, so all 3 of those teams still play each other. So it's kind of up for grabs who's going to face either Ohio State or Penn State out of the East, which that's the second last game of the season for both those squads. Do you think Minnesota will be the Big Ten West representative?
Probably not. They have Penn State, Minnesota back-to-back. Then they play at Northwestern and then home against Wisconsin. I think they drop at least 2 of those, maybe 3. If they drop all 3, which I think is highly possible, then obviously not probable. They'll be in the top.
Yeah, slim to none. But I mean, 9-3 is definitely what Minnesota is at the minimum probably looking to right now.
I mean, if you look at their early season schedule, they could have lost to South Dakota State, maybe should have lost to Fresno State, should have beaten Georgia Southern by more, but almost lost. Purdue almost came back on them, and then the last 4 games they've just been blowing people out of the water. They've had a very interesting arc.
It has been, yeah. But hey, hats off to PJ Fleck.
Yeah, people don't like him for some reason. Like, even a lot of their fans still don't like him. It's so weird.
That is quite odd.
It's like he's taking you to places you've kind of never been in your lifetimes.
Yeah, if you're a Golden Gopher fan, you have nothing to complain about right now. And actually, it's weird. I heard today, if Clay Helton gets canned at USC, should they consider Fleck?
No, I don't. If I'm USC, I don't know what you do. I'm not even sure how good of a job USC is right now.
Yeah, they are nowhere even near what they were. Even when, I don't know, like, it's been a while since USC has really been a major player, not only in just overall gameplay, but recruiting.
I mean, they get their kids out of California, but now everybody else is starting to go to California too.
They're getting poached.
So they're still a very talented team, but I think they need to find, I think, Urban Meyer as a very potential choice.
They need to make a strong run at him. I think that they're going to put their best offer on the table for him because he's the best they can get.
And they still have a lot of money. That university is made of money.
I mean, it's a private school in Los Angeles. Yeah, they're loaded. We're going to continue with this theme of kind of upstart teams that could make their conference title games. We move on to Baylor now. They are in first place in the Big 12 after Oklahoma went down. They still have to play Oklahoma. It looks like more than likely Baylor will be in the Big 12 title game.
They're in very good shape now that Texas lost again.
So they have 2 games in the bag ahead of the third place team. I think that if Baylor,
with tiebreakers over Iowa State and Oklahoma State, not that really matters,
and Kansas State.
So
that game against Oklahoma, big deal. Is it? I'm not sure. Is it in Norman or is it in Waco this year?
I think Matt Rule is going to be an NFL head coach.
It's in Waco. It is in Waco. So that's even more favorable for the Bears.
WVU tonight, then at TCU, home Oklahoma, home Texas, and at Kansas. I think they have a significantly better chance to run the table than Minnesota.
I agree. However, there's a couple trap games on there.
The Big 12 is really I don't know how to make this a verb. There's a lot of parity in the Big 12. So I think winning out will be tough, but I think they're in very good shape to make the Big 12 title game.
I agree. I think they will. I think they'll be. I think we'll be playing Oklahoma again in the Big 12 title game.
They're a lot of fun to watch. They're like watching a pro team in a lot of respects.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, tonight they have West Virginia.
Yeah, I just put it on my laptop. I'm watching this.
I don't blame you 1 second.
The whole Baylor revamped traditional uniforms look pretty nice. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, when they first released them, I was
ugly.
I did too. I was like, this is kind of plain. Especially the yellows. Like I thought they were.
Have they even worn those yet?
I think they were like, let's
Wolf
not, guys.
saw those and was like, fuck no.
Yeah,
we're wearing green.
And their greens are sharp.
Yeah, they
look good. So the last team we're going to talk about, we just mentioned USC. They're leading the Pac-12 South, and they're undefeated at home this season. And they host Oregon this week, and they had that win over Utah in the bag. So they have the tiebreaker with the Utes. They have a very legitimate shot at making the Pac-12 title game.
They haven't lost a conference game, have they?
They lost to Washington. It's their only conference loss. Yeah,
okay.
It's their only conference
loss. Yeah, but they do have the tiebreaker over Utah, which is funny. I do think they lose another one, but it's kind of fun to play around with like an 8-4 USC team making the Pac-12 title game.
Potentially over like a 10-2.
And watch if they beat Oregon, because this is Pac-12, anything can happen. Let's say they beat Oregon, they go to the Rose Bowl. There's still a really good chance they fire Clay Helton.
Even if they win the Rose Bowl?
Yeah, even if they win the Rose Bowl.
That would be hilarious, actually. I feel bad for Clay Helton because he's had to piece together his quarterback.
Personally, I think I might give him another chance just because I think their quarterback room is really talented, especially with Slovis, who looked really good against Colorado. I think you give the air raid another year, but I think that's a very, very restless administration, and they're going to have a new AD that'll want to prove a point.
Yeah, I mean, with Lynn Swann now out and
You see that a lot with new ADs. Even if the coaches aren't necessarily doing a poor job, I think the calls from the fan base are loud enough where a new AD would be forced to act.
And new AD, that's a part of the reason a lot of times new ADs are hired. They kind of correlate with football programs that aren't achieving to the level in which they're meant to be. Florida, that's why Scott Strickland was hired to replace Jeremy Foley, and he got his guy in as soon as he possibly could here. When he found a chance to fire McElwain, he took advantage of it.
McElwain was probably done after that year anyway, but I think the mid-season stuff kind of helped accelerate the process.
Yeah, and USC might be going through that same kind of transition. So we're going to go to a bigger picture regarding the playoff. And the Big Ten and the SEC both have legitimate shots at getting two teams in. Which conference has a better chance to do so?
Oh, SEC. Bama, LSU, Florida, Georgia. Those are four teams that would all have a good case. I mean, obviously, Georgia, Florida play each other. One of those is done. But those three would all likely have arguments. And then Big Ten, Penn State is going to have to win out, but I think that's going to be tough. Ohio State's going to win out. Michigan probably won't win out.
That's the thing. Let's say if Penn State...
That's what a 9-game conference schedule does to you. You kind of beat each other up.
Yeah. And with Penn State, let's say your only loss is to Ohio State and you play them close. That's a damn good resume if you're Penn State. And that's tough to look over compared to other one-loss teams that you have to consider for a potential playoff spot. What I think would happen, I agree that SEC does have a better chance, especially if Florida, the winner of Florida, Georgia that gets to the title game, beats an undefeated Alabama or LSU. Then I think, especially if it's Florida beating LSU in the SEC title game, well, both those losses then cancel out to each other.
Yeah.
So I think that both those teams would end up getting in if there is a lacking of that other undefeated in there. So I agree that the SEC has a better chance, but the Penn State conundrum, if their only loss is a close 1-2 at Ohio State, that is really tough to.
It's going to be tough to keep them out.
Yeah. And that brings the point that the Big Ten, they're really the only conference outside the SEC that could put two teams in.
Yeah, Big 12's done. ACC obviously is done.
That would kind of make up for it for the Big Ten after the past two seasons if they get two teams in the playoff.
Yeah, it would.
That'd be kind of funny.
I don't want them to. I think the Big Ten's boring, but
I agree. But we digress. We're gonna move in, since we're in a poor part of the season. We're gonna talk about are you gonna make a bowl game or not? You want to talk about some 3 and 5 teams that have a chance to make a bowl game still, that are kind of on the fringe of that. So I'll let you go ahead and take the reins, starting with an SEC school in South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina doesn't have a great shot.
No.
Getting killed by Tennessee probably killed their chances. The remaining schedule is...
Well, they play Vandy this weekend,
That's
App State,
that's
A&M, and Clemson.
At A&M, too. I think they go 5-7.
Win their next 2 games and then lose their final 2.
Yeah. I mean, 4-8 isn't off the table.
I mean, Appy State could very easily beat them.
Appy State's really good.
Yeah, they're awesome. I was actually looking through Appalachian States, and we'll talk about Appy State a little bit more when we do our picks. But they immediately, as soon as they got in the FBS, they have not had a worse season than 7-5.
Really? I thought they had 1 year where they went 5-7.
No, every single year they have had a winning record.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So now we have UCLA, who, if you had told me 6 weeks ago I'd be talking about them potentially making a bowl, I would have told you were fucking crazy.
You thought they would go winless at one point this season.
Look at their schedule. It looked very likely. They already got killed by Oregon State.
Which happens to no one. But now all of a sudden...
Might happen to more people. Oregon State's actually becoming competent.
Yeah, they're kind of getting a little bit...
So they go Colorado, which is likely a win. Colorado's kind of a dumpster fire right now. At Utah, probably a loss. At USC, who the hell knows? And home against Cal.
Oh, gosh.
I'd say it's 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, Cal and Colorado, 2 most winnable games.
USC winnable just because...
It's a rivalry.
They beat USC last year and they were terrible.
Yeah.
So who knows? I think their shot is decent. Their offense looks pretty good lately.
Yeah, Joshua Kelly's been running the ball really well.
Yeah.
And,
at the expense of Demetric Felton, who I dropped because he had 6 points in 2 weeks for me.
After he had that.
After he had a 52-pointer or something against Washington State when I picked him up. And we have Tennessee, who I think actually has the best shot of all of them.
Their schedule is very favorable to end the season. I mean, it's UAB, Missouri, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt.
Yeah, you got the order wrong a little bit. It's UAB, Kentucky, Mizzou. Vandy.
Okay.
Vandy's a thorn in their side, but I see them beating Vandy this year. This is a worse Vandy team than usual.
Yeah.
They'll probably beat UAB because I think they this is a team that kind of knows that to make a bowl they have to. They'll have them at 4-5 at Kentucky, who I don't think is variable enough to beat them.
But
who the hell knows?
Who the hell knows?
Kentucky's doing wizardry right now. Even
hats off to Mark Stoops right now for what he's doing in Kentucky.
At Mizzou's tough.
Yes,
Mizzou's way better on the
road. Playing in Missouri is a whole different animal.
Although without Cale Garrett, their defenses looked average at best.
It's taken a huge step back.
And then at home against Vandy. I think their shot's solid. And the last team...
I mean, I just want to say the fact that Tennessee fans were clamoring on Twitter about how there's still a chance for them to go to Atlanta. Like, there is... I mean, mathematically, yes, it is possible.
I feel like that's tongue-in-cheek.
But, like, Tennessee Twitter is delusional. Lightly. To put it lightly. I just thought that was really funny. I had to interject that there.
Miss State has Arkansas, Bama, Abilene Christian, and Ole Miss. The Ole Miss game might be like the bowl eligible.
They both 5-6. They both could be
both be 5-6 going in. Well, actually, no. Ole Miss might be 4-7. The rest of their schedule is not.
But that's the thing. Ole Miss is like objectively better than Mississippi State right now.
I would say so. But I mean, Ole Miss still has Auburn and LSU.
Yeah, no, yeah. But I will say this about Ole Miss, though. I think they're trending in the right direction.
No, I think so too. Their offense looks pretty competent this year as a whole.
John Rice Plumlee is their guy, I think.
Is it Reese or Rice? I thought it was Reese.
Is it Reese? Might be Reese. Whenever there's more than
that really Southern Plantation way, RHYS.
That's so Mississippi. Yeah. That's super Mississippi.
Yeah. His family definitely owned some humans back in the day.
That old deep
That's old money.
That's old money. So it's probably the most groundbreaking thing that happened this past week. We're just going to touch on this real quickly. Is the NCAA? They didn't really do anything. They just were like, we approved the ability to talk about paying players, or not paying players, but like allowing players to earn endorsement money, which basically means we're going to sit on our hands until like December of 2020 and then put in some very small provision to make it seem like we're doing something, but really nothing changes.
I don't know. I feel like they're going to become more amenable to changes as these states are like, hey, we're going to pay our players. You can't fucking do anything about it, or we're going to leave.
I mean, when you have California and Florida going to
Probably
approve that,
Texas is going to join the party eventually.
I mean, you can't lose those 3 states.
I heard rumblings that Texas was going to.
Which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Ohio is probably going to do it too.
Well, it's a bipartisan issue. There are people on both sides that think they should get paid. I mean,
Except
Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah,
That's
right.
not what I
Except
expected.
that one senator from North Carolina who wants to tax scholarships if this happens.
Yeah, he got flamed, though. Nobody cares about him.
Yeah, he got ratioed so hard on Twitter.
I think it's good. It's already happening. A lot of people pull wool over their eyes and say, it'll corrupt college athletics. Well, the NCAA is corrupt as a whole by itself anyway. The model's corrupt. They turn blind. Like, the whole transfer portal system is totally screwed up anything. It's like free agency.
Well, for quarterbacks, it's free agency.
Yeah,
for everyone else,
for everyone else, fuck them. I think it'll just kind of... It'll be like legalizing pot. Everybody does it anyway. Now it'll just be able to be, tracked and
monitored.
monitored a little
it's...
bit. And it's not coming from the schools themselves. So really my only concern is some booster being like, hey, kid, here's 10 mil.
That's the people's concerns are that and kids being taken advantage of by sports agents who want to just
I
get
think
on
they
them
should probably
early.
block agents, or at least in some capacity block agents.
I think they should block them at least until a kid's on campus.
Yeah.
And they can be taught how to deal with agents.
Yeah.
Because that's a skill. You have some kid who comes from absolutely nothing, in rural Alabama. They're not going to know how to handle that money because they've never had it. They don't know what to do with it. So you're going to need to be people there to teach them how to handle this kind of transaction and this. All of a sudden, you have $2K in your pocket. Well, your family doesn't make $2K in 2 months, so you don't know what to do with it, and there needs to be people there to teach them every step of the way, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we'll get video games again at some point, I'm sure.
I think, yeah.
What I've heard a lot of people wanting, this is a total side note, a lot of people just want them to add a few teams and some nice little effects in NCAA 14, put it on the PS4, sell it for $80 and call it a day.
Dude, everyone would be
I'm totally down.
People would be very happy about
Don't
that.
even update the graphics. Just give me the game for PS4 with the teams that have entered since 2014, and I'm happy. I'm a happy man. I don't even need the players. Just make them random. Some dude with no job on the internet will have it all within a couple days, and we'll be good. Roll.
Yeah, and you and the rest of the country will happily cherish that.
One of my friends said he'd buy NCAA 21 for $120 and walk out with a smile on his face.
And that's the low end of what I've seen, jokingly on Twitter. We're going to move now into this week's slate of games. Not a whole lot going on here. I mean, there's obviously Florida, Georgia. That's the big one. SMU, Memphis, a ranked AAC matchup. But outside of that, kind of sucks. Not really a whole lot going on. So we'll start with our top tier games, and we'll begin with number 8 Georgia and number 6 Florida in Jacksonville. This line has been wild. I was telling you before we went on. It's opened at 6. It went all the way down to 3.5 in Georgia's favor, and now it's at 6.5 Georgia. So this game is, I think Georgia's getting that preseason love is still a
little bit
there for them.
I feel like that South Carolina loss was so shocking, people almost aren't even taking it seriously.
It's an anomaly. People assume it's an anomaly.
Yeah, I think they're getting that love because almost like Oklahoma with the Kansas State loss, it just kind of feels so weird that people aren't really acknowledging it. So I think the teams are very even. I think Florida getting healthy again on defense is going to be huge.
Grenard Zuniga being back is going to change the dynamic of this game substantially.
I saw a stat that Jake Fromm, which this is not great for us because Grantham's hard-headed, against zone, his passer ratings over or right at 100, or QBR is 90. Against cover one, he has not thrown a touchdown. His QBR is 47.
I did see that stat too. I just think that Grantham is going to just play a lot of tight man coverage.
Which I'm fine with.
Which is what you have to... That's how you get to play Georgia. I mean, George Pickens is a quality receiver.
They get Cager back, too.
And is he going to play? Or
yeah, they said he was.
He was? He's the guy that I'm a little bit more worried about. Because he can go up and win one-on-ones. The thing, though, with Zuniga and Grenard being back on the field is that's going to help with DeAndre Swift substantially. Kind of a stat that I saw was with Grenard and Zuniga on the field, Florida allows 1.6 yards a rush. With just one of them off the field, it's 4.2 yards a rush.
Which still is not that bad.
Which is still good.
Frankly, it's still not that bad.
But 1.6 yards, that's obscene.
Off the field's what? Like, both off the field?
Oh my God, 7. It's like 7 or, Jesus. I mean, South Carolina gouged us, and so did Clyde's Edward-Helaire. And... I mean, yes, getting Kadarius Toney back is nice, but I don't really feel...
He's not really that important.
He'll be good as a decoy. He is something that they have to prepare for now and respect. Because obviously, yeah, he has home run potential, but he hasn't, been in the offense since the first quarter of UT Martin. There's going to be maybe like a couple set screen passes, some jet sweeps. He might get like 3 or maybe, 4 touches the whole game. But he's not going to have as big of an impact, I think, as obviously Grenard or Zuniga will. Cameron's dog is...
he's being a little autist right now.
He's wants some love. He's
No, I think Florida has a good chance. I don't know. I think it's going to be tight, like 27-24.
I had 27-24.
Or we're going to beat their ass. I don't see them blowing us out.
I agree with that. I don't think they have the firepower on offense to put up a whole lot of points. But their defense does worry me a tad. I mean, they're fifth in the country in points allowed per game. And I feel that we're not talking about Georgia's defense enough.
I mean, their schedule hasn't really been...
Yeah, no, they haven't really played an offense that's fully competent.
No, even Notre Dame. I mean, we saw them against Michigan. They looked terrible.
Yeah, they looked horrendous. And Notre Dame played their best game against Georgia offensively. Yeah. I'm going to take Florida, 27-20 is my score prediction. I really think that as long as you give Trask some protection, that man doesn't get phased. He's like a robot. He has no change of demeanor on the field whatsoever. I mean, he doesn't get rattled at all. I mean, look what South Carolina's a prime example of that. He played like crap for 3 quarters, and then fourth quarter 3 touchdown passes.
That's you figure out how to grip the ball.
So you got Florida as well, or
I abstain.
You abstain. You're not gonna jinx it.
No.
Well, we know where we'll be for the game on Saturday. Yes, lots of substances coursing through our veins to make this game palpable.
Yeah.
Gonna go to the other ranked matchup. Number 15 SMU goes to number 24 Memphis. This is where game day decided to be this weekend. I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with
that. I mean, Memphis is a cool place. I mean, how often they go to an AAC school?
No, I like it.
I do too. And Florida's been on there 3 times already. I'm okay with them changing it up a little bit.
We get SEC
Nation, which is cool. So. SEC Nation is pretty cool. I mean, that's a pretty cool crew. Memphis is a 6-point favorite.
Which I buy.
Buy it too. I mean, being at home, and SMU has been very up and down in their games. I mean, obviously they're undefeated, but they've had moments of weakness.
Yeah, I mean, Tulsa should have beaten them, and Houston almost did. SMU is also one of those teams, though, I feel like they just are kind of unaffected. So watch them come out and win by 20. But I'm going to take Memphis in a tight one, 35-31, something like that.
I'm going to actually agree with you here. I think that Kenny Gainwell's going to have another big game.
He's ridiculous.
Dude, that man projects very nicely at the next level.
He's one of their leading receivers, if not their leading receiver by now. And he's by far the leading rusher. And he's top 10 in the country.
Yeah, he's a machine. He's awesome. He's fun to watch. And Memphis defensively is competent. I'd say. I mean, they hold their own. They do enough. And
I mean, Tulsa did hang up 41 last week.
That's fair. They did. And they missed.
SMU's defense is simply not very good.
Yeah, they just outscore people.
Yeah.
This would be fun. This would be a fun game, though. I'm excited to watch this.
Hearing Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit on this game is going to be fucking weird.
It really is. It's going to be quite odd. I feel like Adam Amin should be here calling it.
Oh, they're dressed as the Anchorman crew tonight.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Adam Amin's Ron Burgundy. It's really funny.
That's hilarious, actually. Going to go out west. Big trap game for Oregon. They go to USC. Oregon's a 4.5-point favorite. USC undefeated at home this season. I mentioned it earlier. This is not going to be an easy task for Oregon at all.
No, and Oregon's defense was elite early in the year, and all of a sudden they've been allowing points and passing yards in bunches to two really good quarterbacks in Jacob Eason and Anthony Gordon. Eason threw for 289 on like 75% completions. Gordon had 406, and for the majority of the game was kind of doing whatever he wanted. And I thought Oregon might kind of pull an apple cup and clamp down on the air raid. Thank God I ended up starting Anthony Gordon with fantasy.
Yeah.
He won me fantasy. But they kind of got torched. And if Keaton Slovis plays up to his potential, or Matt Fink, because there's like a 50% chance Keaton Slovis gets injured.
Who the hell knows?
If either of them play up to their potential, I think USC has a big shot to win this game.
I'm actually going to take USC. With what I've seen from Oregon the past 2 weeks, defensively against teams that throw the ball effectively, and with USC's receiving core, I think it's a bad matchup for Oregon. I think USC is going to win a high score. I think this game's going to be like 38-35, 38-31.
Yeah,
in USC's
that's about
favor.
In line with Oregon's last two games. I'm going to take Oregon with about that score.
The other Pac-12 game of note, number 9, Utah goes to Washington. Utah a 3-point favorite. And this is an interesting game between two relatively quality defenses and offenses that can get hot, but I don't know, this is a weird game to me.
I think Utah puts the clamps down, wins by double digits, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Utah's like 120th in pace. They just slow it down.
And nobody can stop Zach Moss. I mean, against USC, he got hurt like in the first quarter. And that totally took them out of their game plan. And that's their loss of the season.
They were punting more than they wanted to in that game.
Yeah.
And their defense was young. I mean, obviously it's still young, but they look vastly improved against the pass. And I think they're going to handle business. Washington's kind of underachieved.
Very much so. I like Utah as well, and I agree. I like them by double digits.
This will be Washington's 4th conference loss.
And going into the season, nobody thought that was going to be the case.
And Easton's been, for the most part, pretty good. Defense is underachieved a little bit. They're losing close games. But I like Utah to slow it down, win like 31-14.
I'm going to take a little closer than that. I'm going to go with like 30-17, something in that ballpark. All right, so we're going to go through a rapid-fire session of the picks for the rest of the week. Going to start tonight. Don't look at the score of West Virginia Baylor. No one scored. All right, West Virginia goes to Baylor. Baylor, 17.5-point favorite. Do they cover?
Not looking like it. Both offenses look putrid.
But you got Baylor.
Yeah, I got Baylor.
Also happening right now, Georgia Southern at Appalachian State. Georgia Southern beat Appalachian State last year. Appy, though, 15.5-point favorite. Who you got?
I don't know the score on that one, but App State covers.
I agree. They have been elite offensively and defensively this season, and I really hope that they run the table. And I hope they beat South Carolina next week. That would be funny.
It would be funny.
To the Saturday slate, NC State 4-3 goes to Wake Forest, who's 6-1. Wake 7.5-point favorite. I'm gonna take Wake to cover.
Yeah, NC State's a little bit out of sorts offensively. They don't have a quarterback, so
Wake. A weird 5-2 matchup. 5-2 Virginia Tech. Who the hell thought?
The worst 5-2 5-win team in the country.
Yeah,
period.
Yeah.
2 FCS wins, both by like single digits, and a 14-point win against Old Dominion.
Yeah,
I don't buy it.
No. They go to Notre Dame, who's 5-2, coming off obviously that bad loss to Michigan. Notre Dame, the 17.5-point favorite. Does Notre Dame come out pissed off and beat the pulp out of Tech, or do they have a hangover?
I think they have a hangover, but I don't think it matters. I think they win like 30-20.
They're substantially better than Tech, who just doesn't have talent.
No.
Or coaching.
I mean, Hendon Hooker's healthy, but I'm not sure how big of a difference it makes.
Yeah, I'm going to take Notre Dame. I think Tech will cover, though, but like barely. It'll be like a 14-point game. The Sunflower Showdown. Kansas State, ranked 22nd, goes to Kansas, who obviously won last week on that bizarre
idiocy.
A blocked field goal that was fumbled by Texas Tech that Kansas recovered.
It wasn't fumbled, it was pitched.
Which when it goes as a fumble, but
it does.
A botched pitch.
There's a difference between a mistake and that.
Yeah, that was. You didn't see the play. He basically threw it to nobody, like literally nobody. I think this will be a tight game.
I do too. I think Kansas has a legit shot. I'm not going to pick them, but their offense has looked really good since they fired their OC. Odd thing to say.
Very weird, yeah.
That being said, I like Kansas State. I think they're rolling a little bit. I think 30-24.
That's right in line with the line. It's Kansas State -6. I'm going to take Kansas State as well. I think they will cover it. It's going to be like 27-17 in that ballpark. I don't know if Kansas can score enough against Kansas State's defense, but it'll be fun. Kansas is definitely on the uptick. They are trending in the right direction. Miami to Florida State. This is hilarious, I feel.
Another bowl eligible.
Both teams are 4-4. It's in Tallahassee. FSU's a 3-point favorite. I feel like this is like it's so weird that nobody's talking about this game. Like just in terms of like grand scale of what this matchup typically is.
They're not very good.
They're bad, yeah. Like that's the thing is that's what I'm saying compared to what this matchup historically is. It's just kind of as a Florida fan, it's hilarious.
It is. I think FSU by double digits though.
I think so too because they actually have some sort of semblance of an offense.
Yeah, and they're not playing like they've given up on the season.
Unlike,
they're still undisciplined as hell, and there's no cohesiveness to anything they do as a unit. But they're talented enough, and Miami is just not good.
No, Miami's really weird. I mean,
Florida plays Miami right now on a neutral site and probably wins by 25 or 30 points.
Yeah, I agree with that thoroughly. Yeah, I'm gonna take Florida State as well by 7 to 10 points. Yeah. To the Big 12, TCU goes to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State a 3-point favorite. TCU obviously coming off that big win against Texas last week. Oklahoma State knocked off Iowa State last week. Both teams got some momentum. This will be an intriguing game.
I think it is because TCU, I think, has found an offense that works for them, and I think Max Duggan's improved dramatically over the course of the season. This is a very interesting game. I'm going to take Oklahoma State, really, because they're at home. And to get bowl eligible, I feel like this is just a game they will win. Tight, though. 37-30.
It's about in line with like most Big 12 scores this season.
Yeah. None of them have really been track meets, but they're all kind of in like that 35-ish range.
I'm going to take Oklahoma State as well here. To a Conference USA game, big game for the East Division. Florida Atlantic goes to Western Kentucky. Both teams 5-3. This is for first place in the East.
Yeah, I'm going to take WKU, actually. They handed Marshall the game last week, I think they...
Yeah, they should have beat Marshall last week.
And we're literally picking them for really to go to their conference title game after their opening loss to Central Arkansas this year. With a backup quarterback.
Which, you can't explain that right now.
I mean, Central Arkansas is pretty good. But
still, it's an FCS team.
Maybe that just proves the talent disparity between FCS and FBS, especially in mid-level conferences, isn't as big as people think.
I mean,
it's still bewildering, but...
I agree. I'm going to kind of expand that point a little bit. The upper level FCS and like lower level FBS talent is definitely way closer than it was even 5-10 years ago.
Oh, the directional Dakota States could step into the Mountain West and win their 8 or 9 games right now.
I agree.
Those are good teams.
I mean, you look at or James Madison, they can step into the Sun Belt or Conference USA and be a contender for those conference. Or, there's a lot of schools that are like
Eastern
that.
Washington could probably step into the Mountain West and have some success as well.
Yeah.
Actually, no, not this year. They suck.
They're bad this year. But historically,
they
historically. Could. Or Sam Houston State could probably, historically, could go into the AAC. Going to go to the ACC. A Coastal Division game. This conference is exactly what we thought it would be. It's exactly what it always is. Stupid. UVA is 5-3. They go to a 4-4 UNC team. UNC is a 2-point favorite.
I get it.
I do too. I mean, UVA they lose to Miami. They lost to Louisville last week. I mean, after people had them in the Orange Bowl in preseason projections. Like, I don't know.
After all this, they'll still find a way to lose to VTech.
I think they might too because they had that bugaboo and I don't know.
I like UNC here pretty easily, actually.
I like them too. I think it's going to be like 23-20, 23-17, something like that, UNC. I want to see UVA do well, but I don't know. They're missing something offensively. Last game, an offense and a quarterback that's can throw the ball on a consistent basis. I mean, Bryce Perkins is a great athlete, but he shouldn't be playing quarterback at the D1 level. Last game we're going to talk about out in the Mountain West. Fresno State goes to Hawaii. Fresno State's 3-4, but a good 3-4. I mean, they're far from a bad team.
They're pretty shitty. They lost at home to Colorado State last
That's fair. They did lose to Colorado State, who is really bad.
This line's kind of funny to me. I think Hawaii's going to win by 10. Just because going to Hawaii for those midnight games is not a lot of fun for both visiting teams anymore.
That's such a long travel session. I mean, you got to go 6 hours on a plane to get there, and it's...
And I think Hawaii was a little bit variable last week. They actually ran for like 240 yards as a team against a bad team. But, I mean, Cole McDonald ran for like 140 last week.
She never does.
He's not even fast. I like Hawaii here just because I think Fresno State, they can't be feeling too good after last week. That's tough.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to Hawaii by double digits.
And Jorge Reina really hasn't progressed at all.
No, which is surprising because he it looked like in the early parts of the season that he was going to have a nice linear progression throughout the season, but he's plateaued pretty much.
Yeah, I think his best game was against Sacramento State, actually.
Yeah, which isn't saying a whole lot.
This is before we end. This is how bad the offense has been in this West Virginia game. The two quarterbacks combined are 2 of 11 for 4 yards.
You know what really sucks about that is that Brock Purdy's on a bye this week on my fantasy team, so I picked up Charlie Brewer as my fantasy quarterback.
I thought I picked up Charlie Brewer for a second. I was about to have a heart attack.
No, I did. I picked him up, and he's starting because Tua and Brock Purdy are not playing.
That's unfortunate.
Yes, it's very, very unfortunate. I am not pleased at all with what's
There's still
progressed.
time.
He'll probably end up throwing for like 2 touchdowns or rushing for 1, but still. Before we do end, really quick, as I mentioned, Tuesday is the first college football playoff poll. Give me your top 4 and top 2 out before we go.
Top 2, I'm going to go LSU, Ohio State, or Ohio State, LSU. I could very easily see them putting Ohio State first.
I could as well.
And then I'm going to go Bama, Clemson.
And then your first 2 out?
First 2 out, Oklahoma, and who the hell is 6 right now?
Penn State.
Oh, really?
Penn State's 5. Florida 6.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess. Oklahoma's loss is recent. So maybe those 2. I don't know. After the top 4, the CFP kind of does their own thing.
Yeah, it's weird how they go about it. I'm going to go Ohio State, LSU, Bama, Clemson, and then the first 2 out, Penn State, Florida. Which is basically in line with the AP poll.
Well, we'll see. Florida has to win this week.
I know. That's me assuming Florida's going to win.
Okay.
And on the flip side, if Georgia beats Florida, I think Georgia is 6. So that'll wrap us up here on the Bird and the Bear podcast. Be sure to go check out all of our podcasts over on our YouTube channel at the Bird and the Bear CFB. Make sure to subscribe and like to all the podcasts and continue to listen to us as we wind down the rest of the college football season. We'll be back next week to break down the first college football playoff poll and all of this week's action around the country. So for Cameron Carriglio, Michael Knauff, saying good night, and we'll see you next time.